Mr. Grumpy Garage Inspection, a Crossout video by Dangerously Incompetent. In today's video we're going to have a closer look at my own creation, Mr. Grumpy here. Now Mr. Grumpy is a explosive wheel delivery system featuring larger explosions due to the Harpy cabin, faster reload from the Colossus carrier, superior battlefield surveillance from the Maxwell full range Radar-Detector, and all-terrain capability courtesy of some armoured tracks, and then to cap it all off, a bit of deception with an inflatable mammoth on the top. I've used fortunes before on a hover build, back when hovers were great. Well, hovers aren't so great these days, but fortunes are still good. They're a very versatile weapon, provided you can find a suitable slope. You can do indirect fire over buildings and mountains and such. If your enemy's hiding amongst buildings, you can bounce them off walls and surprise your enemy that way. Notice how long they hang around before they finally expire and go boom, and they're still moving around a bit, which is great if you've got suspect an enemy has chameleoned up and is heading towards you through a narrow channel. Well, you just fill the space with bouncing wheels of explosives. They're bouncing all over the place. He's going to have a hard time dodging them all. And then at the end of the day, once you get up close and personal, they're capable of some devastating burst damage, particularly if your enemy is using, generators or fuel tanks. Because with two of them, I've got 6 shots in a volley, and if I'm close, they come through almost in the same place. So it wears through any spaced armour and then any structure that's got hiding stuff, and then the last ones are blowing up his generators and fuel tanks, which means a big boom, and the number of enemies I've wrecked that way is quite considerable. Fortunes would be a bit OP if there weren't some downsides, and there are. Starting with a considerable power score of 1625. Then it has an ammo count of only 12 volleys, which means realistically you need extra ammo crates or expanded ammo boxes, which bumps your power score up even more, and they go boom if they're shot off, so you've got to protect them. Its durability is alright, energy drain is high with 5 points, mass is okay, but the real problem with the fortune is attaching it. It's only got 2 little attachment points on either side, and got a big flat mount on the bottom, but nothing on the top, nothing on the front, nothing on the back that you can attach it with. And you can spin it round on the plane, but you can't flip it up on its side to attach it to the side of your cabin, say, and you can't roll it over so you can attach it to the underside of anything. Makes it a real pig to fit it in and attach it to something durable. I had a look in the exhibition for inspiration, but all the builds I found in there that had armoured tracks and were hiding away the fortunes, or tried to put them underneath a cabin with you using legs, they're all relying on itty bitty little bits of structure either down the middle there and attached to the side in order to attach them. And of course any explosion goes in that area, those structural parts just fall off and your fortune's fallen off, even if it hasn't been suffered all its durability and damage. So that was no good, I thought, and so I fiddled around for a while until I managed to attach them to the armoured tracks, which have a huge amount of durability. So it's the bits that's holding on to the fortune. If the armoured tracks have gone, then my ride's knackered anyway, so it doesn't really matter that the fortune falls off. Although it doesn't look like it when you start moving around the track. See, you can see where it's attaching to the frame, but it doesn't show up as attaching to the fortune, but it is. I can show you. Let's take away all these structural parts that are near it. Take away the other fortune and the bits above. bits behind. So you can see it's not attached to any of those structural parts, it's still attached to something, and that something is the armoured tracks. The Fortune has a narrow arc of fire. You can see it there under the cursor. If I press F, it will blink on and off. There you go. That shape there, that shows you where it can fire, which means you can't spin around, shoot behind you or anything, but it makes it very suitable for boxing in. I put armoured and heavy durable stuff on all sides of it, apart from the direction where it shoots out. So if an enemy wants to de-gun me, they can't do it from the side because the armoured tracks are in the way, or I can't do it from the rear. They've got to shoot in this little gap here in order to hit my Fortunes directly. Speaking of the tracks, armoured tracks are great. Movement and armour all in one. I mean, look at that durability, 1300 points, that's great. That's one of the efficiencies in this vehicle. For the amount of punishment it can take is quite high because of these armoured tracks. When I fire at someone, I've got to show them my face, but once I've done that, while I'm reloading, I'll turn so they can only see my arm. They see my armoured tracks and hit that and do damage to that, but it can soak up a lot. And then when I'm ready to fire, I'll point at them again, and then turn around and show them the other track. I mean, doing that, you can take an awful lot of punishment. And the top part of the boxing in for the Fortunes is the Colossus. Again, a big chunk of durability, which is why I've mounted it up front, to defend the cabin and box in the Fortunes from above. The only downside with slapping it on the front like that is that when it does get shot off, I lose its mass limit bonus of 2,575 kilograms. And if it's the first thing that's gone off, I mean, if the plows are still on and some of these heavy APC parts are still on, I've taken it out. I can end up being over my mass limit for the vehicle, which means it slows to a crawl until I get shot again and some of the heavier parts are knocked off, and then I'm back under the mass limit and zooming around again. But then I get another problem with all the heavy bits taken off, the plows and so forth. Most of the mass is then in the rear of the vehicle, which makes it really rather spinny. In fact, going straight, it will suddenly spin round faster than you can ever turn round normally. It just spins on like a top, and it's really rather frustrating. Mr. Grumpy uses the Harpy light cabin. Why do you go for that? Because it's got 12 energy points. That's what you want, as much energy as you can get, which means more weapons. All the other stats like power, max speed, tonnage, mass limit, energy, durability, mass, they're all in the middle there. And then the Brucey bonuses of extra ammunition. Well, that's nice to have, but that's not really why I wanted it. What I wanted it for was the 12 energy points and boosts explosion radius by 20%. So my Fortune explosions are 20% bigger. Kaboom! Having said that, in the heat of battle, I haven't really noticed the extra explosion radius. I mean, I could go and do a test, I suppose, and actually see it in happening. And thinking about it, it must help, because with a bigger explosion radius, I'm taking off more wheels, I'm taking off more structural parts, my explosions are reaching further in and more likely to get the explosive stuff like ammo packs and fuel tanks and generators, so it must be helping. Until you get to point blank. You'll notice the Fortunes are right at the front of the vehicle. Well, not right at the front, but they're pretty far forward. And with an increased explosion radius as well, the tyres will explode as soon as they touch an enemy. If the enemy's right here, then they'll go boom right here, and the explosion you can knock your own Fortunes off with your own Fortunes. So if you find yourself at point blank distance and you can't get off the eye, they're driven straight into you and they're pushing, only fire your Fortunes if you're really desperate, because you're going to do yourself damage. The other thing about the Harpy is you won't find it on your faction workbenches at the moment. You can buy it in the market, and last Knight Rider event you could build it, but now it's only available on the market. So if you fancy getting a Harpy after seeing Mr. Grumpy in action, I'd wait a while, because the devs said they'd move the Harpy to a faction workbench next Knight Rider event, and the next Knight Rider event should be coming around in a month or two. With the Fortunes only having 12 volleys in their ammo count, it's really rather necessary to have an ammo pack. And I've got an expanded ammo pack, cartridge box fusion, which is totally worth it. Totally worth the money I spent on fusing up my expanded ammo packs for cartridge box with 40% extra module effectiveness. That's 40% more ammo. It's great. And if you're ever tempted to economise by putting just the blue ammo packs, don't. They're rubbish. They're absolutely rubbish, because both sorts of ammo pack explode when destroyed, and the blue one, its durability is so low, it's just, you tickle it and it goes boom. Don't use them. Use the expanded ammo pack, because its durability of 323 is really helpful. Really helps you stay alive. And even then, it's a good idea to hide it away. So I've got it stuck between the tracks, and there's my main weapons, and then the cabin, and boxing it inside to side. So it's really tucked away quite nicely, and it's tough anyway. And even if I didn't have the expanded, or I wasn't running the Harpy and I was running a bit low on ammunition, there's space for a second one just there. Here's some more coin well spent with a Maxwell fused for full range. Detection radius for enemies behind cover increased by 30%. Totally worth having. I heartily recommend this fusion to you, because you can see the enemy through buildings, and you tell your allies about it. Great! If you can't afford the fusion for the full range, then it's still worth getting the Maxwell. The radar detectors, they're excellent. It is the simplest way of increasing your win rate is to put a Maxwell on your build, because you can see what the enemy are doing, and you tell everybody else on your team what's going on. It's all about the tactics, knowing who's where and who you can isolate, where you can get local superiority in numbers, and radar detectors help you do it. I placed it rather badly, to be honest, because as well as seeing the enemy, it actually works very well as armour. Look at the durability, 283 points. That's really rather high. And I've just plonked it on top of the cabin. I really should have it in the front somewhere, or in the rear, protecting the back end of the cabin. But the problem is, if we pick it up and turn on there we go. It's only sticky on the bottom. It's not sticky on the sides or on the top or anything. So it can be a bit awkward to place it. And that's my excuse for not putting it somewhere useful. And now the deceptive part of the vehicle. A while ago, the Inflatable Mammoth got nerfed as regards cannon shots. It doesn't work as spaced armour if a cannon shell hits it. And that caused the price to tank. And I've since been buying them for salvage. But since I had one in stock, I thought, I'm going to slap one on the top. Yeah, there we go. And amazingly enough, it actually works as a deception. Every so often, someone shoots the Mammoth. They don't shoot the rest of my vehicle, they shoot the Inflatable Mammoth. And it just goes pop! And they go, ah ha 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 ha, you wasted your scorpion shot. That's it, that's the name. Or whatever, cannon shot, whatever. Shooting at it's understandable. You're in the heat of battle, you got a split-second decision, which part am I going to shoot? I'll degun them. Yes, that's a good tactic. Bang! Oh, that was just an Inflatable Mammoth. I mean, looking at it now, you can see that is an inflatable mammoth. That is never a mammoth. And to be honest, if I saw a vehicle like this coming at me and go, ooh, that's a mammoth on there, I wouldn't bother shooting the mammoth. The mammoth's got huge amounts of durability. If I saw this sort of vehicle, I'll be shooting it in here, not in the tracks, in here, in the structure, in the cabin, in an attempt to disable it. I wouldn't be bothering trying to degun it by shooting the mammoth on the top. But every so often people fall for it, which is nice. The last part of Mr. Grumpy that I want to talk about are the hatchets. Now I only put the hatchets in because 2 fortunes are 8 squares wide and the small plough is only 6 squares wide, so I had a bit of structure being very visible there. I wanted to armour it up a bit. So I slapped on some hatchets. But it turns out they're really rather good at lifting people. They're like 1 square above the ground and they do it unexpectedly well at lifting people. So I think I'll be putting more hatchets on the front of my vehicles in future. That's it for this garage inspection of Mr. Grumpy in all his 7,500 glorious power score. If you fancy trying him out for yourself, you'll find him in the exhibition. D_I space Mr. Grumpy, all one word. And if you're watching this video in like a year's time when I've had to take Mr. Grumpy out of the exhibition to fit another build in, you can always go and watch my deconstruction video and it'll show you how to build him part by part. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.